Hello, I'm Dr. Don McMahon, and I'm a professor at Washington State University, and today we're going to look at using virtual reality to support students with disabilities.
And I'm Katie Hirschfelder. I'm a doctoral student at Washington State University, and I'm interested in virtual reality and using it as assistive technology for students with disabilities.
And we're here at the Washington State University Assistive Technology Research and Development Lab. And this app that we're showing you right now we've recorded this from the HTC Vive, which is a virtual reality headset that uses a computer to provide you dozens, if not hundreds, of virtual reality experiences and games that are available. And this one right here is Google Earth in VR.
And this was one of my first times using Google Earth in VR, and as you can see, I had some trouble with clicking around at first, just trying to navigate how to move and go up and down and get closer to certain areas. So be patient with me through that process.
But it's a good example of someone going through this learning process, learning how to navigate and explore. And we're big believers in just the opportunity to explore as an opportunity for learning. And as we think of any type of tool as an assistive technology, as a way to help students with disabilities, some things are going to bring us really exciting new capabilities, and some are going to have some limitations. So obviously here, we're about to pull up some street level imagery, so you can see things from all over the world. But that also brings up one of the first major limitations of VR. It's a very visual medium. So for students with vision impairments, this is obviously not going to be the most accessible tool necessarily, and so that's worth keeping in mind.
It does, though, provide lots of opportunities for different perspectives. At first I was above the city, and then I got to go into the street level view as well, and you'll see that here again.
This is that really cool Cinderella-like castle, and here we get to see all of the really cool street level imagery that Google has. And so we're trying to provide multiple means of representation to help our students understand things from all around the world. This is a great way. This might be that initial hook that gets them engaged, learning a new tool. They could even use this as a way of expressing their knowledge. Can you explain to me what a peninsula is? And they could go and find any number of peninsulas around the world, or they could create their own tour of different sites around the world.
Yeah, so here we're looking at Yellowstone, and this was really neat because both Don and I had been to Yellowstone, but being able to actually float over some of these landmarks and see them from a different perspective right on top of them was really cool, rather than just staying on the boardwalk.
Yeah, especially with the geysers. Apparently if you go in them, you definitely die. So you can use Google Earth to explore places that are too dangerous to go normally. And it's striking that just about, well, this is one of the little presets, you can go to pretty much anywhere on planet Earth, because there's been satellite imagery there. And with the street level imagery, this one was taken with a backpack with a camera on it. That's why it's a little bit higher than some other things. But if you were a student who might have some mobility challenges getting to explore some of these parts of the world, this is a potential tool to allow them to explore the world.
You can also see I'm kind of getting a hang of using the controls there. It's gotten a little bit smoother, and I've maybe been doing this Google Earth for 10-ish minutes, so it's very easy to use. You just kind of have to get in there and try it out.
Now the two handles provide instructions right now, and they provide, they're labeled, but they aren't spoken aloud, and there aren't audio instructions. So, either through trial and error or just with a little bit of coaching, your students can learn how to use it. Now we're on to a creative tool. So at first we were really focused on learning, and this one's maybe a little bit more play-based.
Yeah, so this was, Don had written on the board, and I was trying to erase it. But it was very sensitive to where I was clicking. So, you know, for fine motor skills, you really have to work at it for sure.
Now this game this is Google Tilt Brush in VR, and you can play it standing up or sitting down. You can create and draw in this three-dimensional space. You get to see your two little paddle handles there, or paddles, and they have, one of them acts as a palette where you can select and draw things, and the other is your brush, basically. And so you get, after a little bit of practice, you get pretty good at it pretty quickly. Generally, the students that we've done this with have taken off with it after about 5 minutes and kind of figure out how the interface works. They don't all become amazing artists in 5 minutes, but and neither did Katie. But they definitely get very engaged and moving around the room, moving around this space, and expressing themselves creatively. Using some of these tools like the STARS tools, you could create for yourself a virtual sensory room and save your little virtual sensory space and have it all to yourself, and so you don't lose your work later on.
Yeah, so this was just a classroom setting that we were in, and there's multiple different areas you can go into to start with. So here's another one where it's blank. It's a blank canvas, and then we've made, looks like a house in there.
I worked really hard on that house, as you can tell, and now I'm going to decorate it with some holiday lights here and weird green slimes that change colors.
But there are lots of options on the brush for those different sensory needs. Things that sparkle, things that glow, dull colors. So there are a lot of options there.
And kind of with any new technology, one of our recommendations is just try to get it into your students' hands, see what they create with it, and you know, there's a reasonable chance that they're going to be learning with more tools like this in the future. So learning how to just navigate and select things is an important skill. If you remember, or if you're old enough to remember like I am, Katie probably doesn't remember this because she's not as old as I am, but you know, I learned how to do lots of things on computers like save files and name files and all of the kind of basics of just navigation, goofing around in things like Microsoft Paint and Apple Paint and drawing apps. And that was one of the first things I would always, you know, play with and get to use on any computer. And here is the VR equivalent of those. And they're great learning opportunities to figure out what this platform of virtual reality can potentially be used for. Here I'm using the pedal tool and pedal brushes to create a really exciting plant for my really detailed house here.
Yeah, and even though Don is wearing the headset, I was still engaged in this because I was watching what he was doing on the computer screen. So you are able to involve others in your creativity and say, oh, do this, and collaborate together on some things too.
One of the things that stands out to me about VR is right now there's so many fun social options for engaging in these VR games. You can meet friends in VR, you can talk with people in VR, which you'll get to see here in a little bit, or you can even just, you know, all share in this experience of watching what is happening and making suggestions about someone's really incredible artwork they're making to create a rocket with really cool pink comet flames here. I was struggling here with making the rocket ship body, but eventually my skills get better. But as you're seeing any of these, let's think about these capabilities that we're showing. So This one does require a computer and the VR headset, so the HTC Vive and the Oculus Rift are two very popular VR platforms, but both require a computer. One of the tools that we're going to show you in a few minutes is the Oculus Go, which is a standalone one, which doesn't require a computer. So that's an important part to keep in mind. Also, this one takes two controllers to really do just about any of the experiences on this platform. Some of the other ones only need one controller. So if you have a student with more significant mobility challenges, this might be more of a challenge, I'd say, for some students, versus one where the controller, you just have to point and click and select things, like on the Oculus Go. But for students who don't have those types of mobility challenges, there are basically an unlimited number of VR experiences out there for education and entertainment.
We're almost complete with the rocket ship here.
Yeah, I wanted to give it stars for us to blast
Well, of
off
course.
into there. So.
Of course.
All right, so our next one is a video from an Oculus Go, and you can see there's our menu of different apps that can be put on. This one is a standalone headset, so it doesn't require a computer. They only cost $199 to $250, depending on what size storage you choose. So that's a little easier for some schools and parents and families to get to the hands of students with disabilities. And it only has one controller, and so you can select just by pulling the trigger there on the little controller and selecting things. And I think we are going to select a solar system app here and learn about the solar system.
It is important to make sure that it's charged. I know we've run into that issue multiple times, so making sure that that headset is charged and at full capacity is very helpful.
Yep, just like any type of mobile device, you'll need to remember to charge it in your cell phone. You want to plug in your VR headsets. They tend to have a battery life of about 3 hours. And here is a little solar system simulation. One of the things that VR brings to the table in terms of education is a whole collection of very immersive virtual simulations that can take you outside of the classroom. It is much more engaging than just watching a television screen.
And here we're seeing the different scales of how far away some of the planets are.
Now we're getting to compare them by size.
Wow.
I'm not sure if Venus actually spins that quickly backwards. It
Venus
does
is
spin in
spinning.
retrograde. I think they just wanted to overemphasize that.
Wow, those size comparisons are pretty amazing.
Yes. And so when we're trying to explain complex topics to our students with or without disabilities, these immersive simulations are a new, powerful capability that we have to both engage and educate our students. And here, what I've done is I've just gone around here in a circle, and at least this one is available in 2 languages. That's unfortunately not always the case sometimes.
Is this also something, do you need to be hooked up to Wi-Fi for, or does it run offline?
This one does work offline.
Okay.
So that's one of the other things that you always want to be checking for with some of these apps and experiences that you might be trying in VR. Some of them stream the simulations or videos onto the device, and then others are standalone, and this one allows you to download that ahead of time.
So I see that there's quite a bit of text on the screen there.
And in my ideal world, as we're thinking about accessibility, I would love it if you had the option to click on it and it would read it aloud for you. Right now, being in the early stages of the VR field, accessibility is a discussion that's happening, but some apps are doing a better job of accessibility than others. hopefully in later generations of some of these, we'll get to see more of those built-in accessibility options become available. And at least the industry right now is engaging in some broader discussions about designing for accessibility and designing for inclusion from the start.
So speaking of inclusion, we're now both in, we both have the Oculus Go on, and we are in Oculus Rooms.
Yep.
And we're both sitting at a table while not in the same physical location, and we're about to play some chess together. So what's neat about this is you don't have to be in the same place. The controller also only allows you to move where the pieces are supposed to go. So it won't, for instance, let you move your pawn, is it pawn?
Pawn more than like
one or
3
two.
spots.
Yeah. So what's nice about that is you don't have to memorize the rules of chess. It also allows for you to know whose turn it is based on that red bar down at the bottom of the table. So right now it's Don's turn, so he's moving, and then it slides over to my avatar as well.
And so think about a student that may not be able to meet with a friend right now, or if you were working with someone who was in the hospital, then they could put on this VR headset, play with a friend who may not be able to visit them, and engage, and great turn taking, and kind of get their mind off of the experience at the hospital. We've engaged with some nearby hospitals and medical providers about ways to use this, and there's a lot of initial interest about it, bringing it into the hospital for sure. That relationship happened because I was taking my daughter to get her flu shot and allowed her to play a snowball game where she shot these bullies who were throwing snowballs at her with a snowball gun, and she didn't even notice that she actually had gotten the shot. And based off of that, there was a whole lot of interest in, hey, we need to have some conversations. And that's one of the things that we kind of want you to take away from looking at VR as an assistive technology. Just get it out there and start exploring what you can do with it and how you can use it.
Yeah, so this next one is National Geographic, and so I believe we're going to the...
I think, yeah, we're going on a...
Safari?
Yep, and so National Geographic and many other providers have these incredible 360-degree videos, and while theirs is with a pride of lions, and they have great narration, we've dropped that audio out so you can listen to us talk about it, which you probably would prefer to listen to this, but we want to talk about VR as an assistive technology. So obviously there are incredible educational applications of this idea of 360-degree video, but also think about taking those 360-degree cameras, which are only like $100 to $200, and working on 360-degree video modeling for your students. So if you have a student who might struggle with some transitions, you could shoot a video of the bus, maybe not a dead impala or whatever the lion has caught there, and shoot a transition based video for how to transition on your new bus, maybe it's their first time riding the school bus home, and so they could experience that ahead of time before having to get on that bus for the first time. It could be a really easy way to get started using VR in a practical way to support students with disabilities. And VR 360-degree cameras right now are somewhere between like $200 to $500, so they have come down tremendously in the last couple of years. All right, so here we are inside the Assistive Technology Research and Development Lab, where I promise we do things more than just play on our VR headsets.
So here you can see a graduate student with the HTC Vive, and you'll get another view where she's got the two controllers in front of her, and that's what we have been using, or we had been using earlier in the video.
And she's playing Angry Birds, but there are lots of different types of educational and game experiences out there in VR. Katie, why is VR going to be important for students with disabilities?
So VR is important because when you think of how far just applications have come and mobile devices when it comes to employment and schooling, we expect the same thing from virtual reality within the next 10 years. So we need to be able to prepare our students with disabilities to use this technology.
And these tools provide, unique capabilities and opportunities that can help address some of the abilities and challenges that our students with disabilities have. And we believe the best way to advance this is to get these tools out into the hands of our students with disabilities, to get teachers and parents and other stakeholders trying these tools out, figuring out which tools have great accessibility options and which ones can address an individual need. And the more that we can involve our entire community of stakeholders, the more we're going to be able to unlock the capabilities and opportunities to help students with disabilities.